A little background on Jules Verne. Exodore 2000. Jules Gabriel Verne, French. Born February 8, 1828. Died March 24, 1905. Livvy Dunne. Oh wow, he lived up until 1905. That's a very long life and a lot of time to write books and stories. He must have been very creative to make up stories about science and adventure. Exodore 2000. French novelist, poet, and playwright. His collaboration with the publisher Pierre Jules Hetzel led to the creation of the Voyages Extraordinaires. Livvy Dunne. Wow, that's super cool. They worked together to create the Voyages Extraordinaires, which is a series of books. I wondered if those books were in French or English. It would be cool if they were written in different languages but were published under the same name. Exodore 2000. The series of best-selling adventure novels, including Journey to the Center of the Earth 1864, 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas 1870, and Around the World in 80 Days 1872. Livvy Dunne. Wow, those sound like very exciting books. It's amazing that these were all written in the 1800s and still hold up today. I wondered what other books he wrote besides those ones. Exodore 2000. I've read two of those. The last one I had a much harder time reading, never knew why. Livvy Dunne. So maybe that's just because the language was so different and it could be a bit challenging. But those are definitely popular books, and I've heard of them, so he must have been a very good author. Exodore 2000. His novels, always well documented, are generally set in the second half of the 19th century, taking into account the technological advances of the time. Livvy Dunne. I think it's very interesting how his books are always set in the second half of the 19th century. It was a very interesting time period, and it makes us think about how different things were back then compared to now, and we can make that connection with the technology differences. Exodore 2000. In addition to his novels, he wrote numerous plays, short stories, autobiographical accounts, poetry, songs, and scientific, artistic, and literary studies. His work has been adapted for film and television since the beginning of cinema, as well as for comic books, theater, opera, music, and video games. Livvy Dunne. Wow, he did a lot of things besides just writing then. It's really cool that he had a wide range of talents and interests. I had no idea that his works have been adapted for so many different things since the beginning of cinema. It shows that his stories really made an impact, and people still want to create new versions of them today. Exodore 2000. Jules Verne has been the second most translated author in the world since 1979, ranking below Agatha Christie and above William Shakespeare. Livvy Dunne. Oh wow, that's really impressive. It's no wonder he's so popular and well known. He's been translated many times, and he has so many different versions of his books that everyone might find one they like. Exodore 2000. He has sometimes been called the father of science fiction, the title that has also been given to H.G. Wells and Hugo Burns back. A little side note here, H.G. Wells is also the father of role-playing games. He wrote a book for war games that later evolved and after many others became Dungeons and Dragons. His book was called Little Wars. Livvy Dunne. Oh wow, it's crazy to think that H.G. Wells is the father of role-playing games. It's so cool how his book, Little Wars, turned into something like Dungeons and Dragons. It's also pretty cool that Jules Verne has been called the father of science fiction, since it means that he truly helped to pioneer a genre of books and literature. Exodore 2000. In the 2010s, he was the most translated French author in the world. In France, 2005 was declared Jules Verne Year on the occasion of the centenary of the writer's death. Livvy Dunne. Oh wow, they really celebrate him in France. It's nice to see that they truly appreciate such a great author. His books are truly famous and deserve to be celebrated. Exodore 2000. Okay, Celebrated Travels of the World by Jules Verne. Livvy Dunne. But yes, I think I will read it. It sounds really interesting. I've actually been meaning to read more often, so this is perfect. I will definitely let you know what I think of it when I finish all: 3. Exodore 2000. The first traveler of whom we have any account in history is Hanno, who was sent by the Carthaginian Senate to colonize some parts of the western coast of Africa. The account of this expedition was written in the Carthaginian language and afterwards translated into Greek. It is known to us now by the name of the Fairy Blues of Hanno. At what period this explorer lived, historians are not agreed, but the most probable account assigns the date BC 505 to his exploration of the African coast. Livvy Dunne. That's really interesting. I've been trying to broaden my reading material from just fiction, so this will be great to expand my ideas. Also, it is a surprising fact that the first traveler to get the story written down about him was to Africa. 0. Exodore 2000. Yes, do understand anything weary from Verne is from the viewpoint of someone from the 1800s, so before our current understanding on any of this. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, I do. 3. I honestly don't mind those, even if it's outdated or whatever. I enjoy reading about how people during that time felt and thought about things. Exodore 2000. Anna left Carthage with a fleet of 60 vessels of 50 oars, each carrying 30,000 persons and provisions for long voyage. These emigrants, for so we may call them, were destined to people the new towns that the Carthaginians hoped to found on the west coast of Lydia, or as we now call it, Africa. Livvy Dunne. That's a large number of people going at once. I feel like when that many people get together, things tend to get a little hectic, for lack of a better word. The idea of colonizing is rather crazy to me, because I can't imagine going to a place I've never been with that many people I don't know and trying to establish towns and cities where there's nothing there already. It kind of amazes me that it all worked out and they succeeded. Yeah, it was a very different place back then. And it's honestly kind of cool to learn how our understanding and our language and everything has just developed over time. Like there are many other places that existed all this time, but since we haven't exactly been to those places, we don't have names for them or anything. Like all in all, it's just really interesting to look back at our past with this different perspective. Yeah, they didn't really have the information that we do now, so they would just kind of lump it all together, and so in all honesty, it makes a lot of sense why they would think of it like that. Exodore 2000. The fleet successfully passed the Pillars of Hercules, the rocks of Gibraltar and Ceuta, which command the strait, and ventured on the Atlantic, taking a southerly course. 2 days after passing the straits, Hanno anchored on the coast and laid the foundation of the town of the Mediterranean. Livvy Dunne. I really do like how they described it as a large rock wall, because yeah, I feel like everything was kind of simplified back then, so they just really didn't have that many words to explain it with. But it's really interesting how things start to form and develop. Exodore 2000. Yeah, that, and if you know anything about the Pillars of Hercules, you know it's believed they opened up to the lost city of Atlantis as well. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, I'd heard about the theory, and it's kind of crazy to think that there could be something so important behind them, but of course they won't know until they start to explore. But even with the little bit of text I've gone through, there seems to be a ton of history and a ton of exploring that is happening, because even with just this expedition, there are so many new things they're discovering. Exodore 2000. Yeah, I myself believe Atlantis may be linked to the people of the Bible. They talked all the time about the Philistines. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, that's a theory I've heard as well, and to think that this one place that has been so important for generations could have been linked to a place that is spoken about in religious texts is really kind of crazy. Exodore 2000. The reason I say that is the coinage both are supposed to have used were very similar. Livvy Dunne. That is a very good point. They probably had a lot of connections in all sorts of things, not only in the coinage, but I'm sure the cultures and stuff would also match up in some ways as well. But this is why I really can't wait to read the book, because there's gotta be so much we're missing. Exodore 2000. Yeah, crazy. At some point, someone may figure out why the currency of the time was so close. Might have just been them trying to standardize it. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, that is definitely a possibility as well, but I bet there's some other reason out there that we haven't really thought about yet, that we haven't really thought of just yet. And that's just how this whole thing is gonna be. We're never gonna understand everything, and there's still gonna be some mystery because we're not there to see all of it, but it's just really cool to get as much as we can. Exodore 2000. Then he put to sea again, and doubling the Cape of Solois, made fresh discoveries and advanced to the mouth of a large African river, where he found a tribe of wandering shepherds camping on the banks. He only waited to conclude a treaty of alliance with them before continuing his voyage southward. He next reached the island of Cerne, situated in a bay, and measuring 5 stadia in circumference, or as we should say at the present day, nearly 925 yards. According to Hanno's own account, this island should be placed with regard to the Pillars of Hercules at an equal distance to that which separates these pillars from Carthage. Livvy Dunne. That one island was nearly 925 yards in circumference. That's so cool. I don't know how big that would even make it compared to other islands around the time, but it's amazing how many different kinds of landforms are out there. Especially when you go to a smaller scale and you get all of these things that seem so random and cool, and yet they've been around and are still around now, and there's no one single explanation but just so much that we don't understand. Exodore 2000. They set sail again, and Hanno reached the mouth of the river Cretes, which forms the sort of natural harbor, but as they endeavored to explore this river they were assailed with showers of stones from the native Negro race inhabiting the surrounding country and driven back, and after this inhospitable reception they returned to Cerne. We must not omit to add that Hanno mentions finding large numbers of crocodiles and hippopotami in this river. 12 days after this unsuccessful expedition, the fleet reached a mountainous region where fragrant trees and shrubs abounded, and it then entered a vast gulf which terminated in a plain. This region appeared quite calm during the day, but after nightfall it was illumined by tongues of flame which might have proceeded from fires lighted by the natives, or from the natural ignition of the dry grass when the rainy season was over. Livvy Dunne. That's really cool that there was a place that appeared calm and everything during the day, and then at night was this place where there are just tongues of flame, because even though some of the fires might have been put there by people, it's just still so amazing that just with a change in the seasons it just becomes a different place entirely. It's just these cool things, and the way that the environment changes is so fascinating, because when is that sort of information ever going to be useful to us now? But it just sort of makes you think about things in a different way. Exodore 2000. Yeah, them being attacked like that does make me wonder what they did to them to piss them off in the first place, though. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, like, do they just see some random people and think, hey, let's throw rocks at them, and then not say anything? Or did the fleet do something that started the fight between them? Exodore 2000. Yep, and we're only getting info from one side, so who's to say it wasn't provoked? Livvy Dunne. Yeah, who knows, maybe both sides had their own perspective on it, and really neither of them were really wrong in a way, but also I kind of wondered why they even stayed in the area if it was like this, because obviously the people do care for their land. Exodore 2000. Yeah, and they were like, get out of here. Livvy Dunne. Like, I wouldn't want to try and mess around with a land full of people who don't want me there and want to throw rocks at me. Even for a second, I would be turning around and getting out of there as fast as possible. Exodore 2000. Yeah, rocks are heavy. These people really want you to leave. Livvy Dunne. Honestly, yeah, like the fact that they can even throw them that far is a huge warning, because like, just imagine your boat is just being bombarded by a bunch of rocks and you're just on the ship having a fun time getting pelted with rocks. Exodore 2000. Remember 30,000 doors on that ship. Livvy Dunne. Jesus, that number is just so large, OMG. Like, yeah, they got a lot of people on board, but the thought of just being one of those 30,000 doors and just trying to row away from a bunch of people throwing rocks at you is honestly hilarious. Exodore 2000. Yeah, you get what I am saying. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, I kind of just want to see the scene now, because even while you're just trying to row away, you just got people all around you still tossing rocks, and everyone just rowing away. Exodore 2000. In 5 days Hanno doubled the cape known as the Hesperus. There, according to his own account, he heard the sound of 5 cymbals and tambourines and the clamor of a multitude of people. The soothsayers who accompanied the party of Carthaginian explorers counseled flight from this land of terrors, and in obedience to their advice they set sail again, still taking a southerly course. They arrived at a cape which, stretching southwards, formed the gulf called Notocaros, and according to M. D'Avezac, this gulf must have been the mouth of the river Auro, which falls into the Atlantic almost within the Tropic of Cancer. At the lower end of this gulf they found an island inhabited by a vast number of gorillas, which the Carthaginians mistook for hairy savages. They contrived to get possession of 3 female gorillas, but were obliged to kill them on account of their great ferocity. Livvy Dunne. Jesus, WTF happened? Like, they got these gorillas and everyone's like, we have to kill them. Did they do something? Did they just like attack the people or something? Like, it says they're not savages, but then they killed 3 of them, so they had to have been doing something. I don't know what's going on, but it is really weird, but honestly it's just super strange and makes it all the better. Exodore 2000. Okay, to be honest, were these a bunch of homesick horny sailors trying to screw the bunch of apes they thought were natives? Makes me wonder if that's why those others were pissed earlier. Livvy Dunne. Honestly, I never thought about that, but maybe, like they were away from their whites and they saw the gorillas and thought like, hey maybe this is a possibility. Exodore 2000. And cats made the apes mad and that's why they attacked them. Then the other guys were like, oh no, savage apes attacking our people, kill them. Livvy Dunne. That'd be so funny all, but it would honestly make sense though because of how it mentions them killing them as soon as they realize the gorillas are just aggressive and wild, and then of course they can't exactly explain it to people, so they just kind of go with the savages story. Exodore 2000. To be honest, it's hilarious. Livvy Dunne. Honestly, it's very hilarious, and I can't help but laugh every time I read one of the sections. Like, I really wish we knew what was going through everyone's heads when this was happening. Exodore 2000. Remember in later writings, they thought manatees were mermaids, they were so horny. Livvy Dunne. It's so weird to think about how just like how they thought things like gorillas as being wild savage people and manatees as mermaids, it makes me wonder what else they thought other things were, and I'm kind of excited to see if they have any other strange ways of looking at other things. Exodore 2000. This Notocaros must have been the extreme limit reached by the Carthaginian explorers, and though some historians incline to the belief that they only went to the Ojeda, which is 2 degrees north of the tropics, it is more probable that the former account is the true one, and that Hanno, finding himself short of provisions, returned northwards to Carthage, where he had the account of his voyage engraved in the temple in Palgrave accent Euros Thef Baal Moloch. Livvy Dunne. I don't know about you, but honestly I would have given up trying to explore if I had ran out of provisions that quickly. I mean, sure, you might have found some things and it could have been worth it, but at the same time you would have been starving, so it like what exactly are you doing if you're starving and can't eat? Honestly, that's probably why it's the supposed extreme limit, but I can't help wonder what would have been past it if they could have kept going. Exodore 2000. Ran out or federal to the girl apes we were trying to screw. Livvy Dunne. Oh, you never know what really happened. Exodore 2000. So look, they were horny, tried to screw some apes and then went home. That's how the first human expedition went. Is that crazy or what? Livvy Dunne. That is so crazy, but honestly that is also one of the best first expeditions ever. Like, I can't think of a more iconic one, honestly. And just think about all the people who went down in history as explorers, and then there's these people just out here trying to get some gorilla action. Lol. Exodore 2000. This is why I love Jules Verne. He was so honest. He was a former sailor himself. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, Jules Verne is amazing, and I love him because he didn't hold back on anything. All he was just there to give us a good story and let us know about some of the most amazing things in the world. And if he had to write about horny sailors getting attacked by gorillas, then so be it. Exodore 2000. I think this might have been one of his first books. This is before he even did science fiction. Livvy Dunne. Oh, so this was like an early work of his. Because honestly that makes it even better, I think. Exodore 2000. After Hanno, the most illustrious of ancient travelers was Herodotus, who has been called the father of history and who was a nephew of the poet Dionysius, whose poems ranked with those of Homer and Hesiod. It will serve our purpose better if we only speak of Herodotus as a traveler, not an historian, as we wish to follow him so far as possible through the countries that he traversed. Livvy Dunne. So okay, I get it. So they're more like travel logs than like historical texts. Exodore 2000. Yes, we want to more or less know where these guys went and any antidotes they may have. Livvy Dunne. That is actually a really cool idea, and I really want to read the travel logs when I get a chance, because I feel like they're probably even more fascinating because they're just talking about things as they saw them instead of trying to piece something together. Like they're telling their own stories, not someone else's, and that just makes it more personal to them. Exodore 2000. Herodotus was born at Halicarnassus, the town in Asia Minor, in the year BC 484. His family were rich, and having large commercial transactions, they were able to encourage the taste for explorations, which he showed. At this time there were many different opinions as to the shape of the earth. the Pythagorean school having even then begun to teach that it must be round, but Herodotus took no part in this discussion, which was of the deepest interest to learned men of that time, and still young he left home with a view of exploring with great care all the then known world, and especially those parts of it of which there were but few and uncertain data. Livvy Dunne. I can't help but imagine what it would be like to be young and leaving home to explore the world just because you were interested. It is so different from what people do today, where you can just watch it on TV or read about it on the computer, but he was literally just out there exploring for his own knowledge and interest. Exodore 2000. Yeah, it's so sad. We get everything just handed to us instead of exploring it ourselves. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, like, it's cool that we get to see everything, but I kind of wish I lived in a world where I couldn't just Google whatever it was I had a question on and actually had to go out and find it myself. Exodore 2000. Yeah, we have so much information at our fingertips now, and these guys had books. Livvy Dunne. If they had even a fraction of what we had, there was no way they could have explored like we do today. I imagine if I had a question about something, I would have to have known someone who knew it, and if I didn't know someone, then I would just have to think about it and then go and find out. Exodore 2000. Yeah, exactly. Livvy Dunne. There's things that I do feel are super positive about living in this new age, but I also feel like having all this information at my fingertips is sometimes too overwhelming and just kind of a lot of stuff that I feel people don't really need to know, and I think that's the weird thing about social media is people just know everything because you have everyone sharing everything, and I feel like we would have honestly been better off without social media in a way. Exodore 2000. So don't get me wrong, I love a good cheeseburger and going to a movie, but this stuff is so interesting to me. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, I love all these sorts of things because, like, you can't just watch this happen on the TV, you need to imagine it, and just the amount of history that we would have no idea about it. People didn't write these logs, and I just think it's crazy too. Imagine how many different things happened at one point in time that we just won't know because people haven't documented them like we do now. Exodore 2000. This is 2,500 years ago. Livvy Dunne. I guess it's still kind of easy to think of it as still modern, but it is absolutely wild to think about that these people had such an amazing culture at this time. Like, we think of other countries as sort of primitive compared to us, but that's only because what we had and what they had are such different things. Like, even the way that they communicated back then had to have been so different because they didn't have anything we have today. They had words written on paper, and that was basically it. Exodore 2000. When these ancient peoples talk about communication, they are talking about getting in a ship and traveling there. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, it's honestly crazy to think about traveling anywhere at this time because, like, now your plane can bring you anywhere, but what if you had to get in a tiny boat that had to sail hundreds of miles or more just to get to other places? It must have been so scary, but also so cool to just know that you're sailing to explore a new place. Exodore 2000. That last guy was in a ship that 30,000 people were rowing. Livvy Dunne. Jesus Christ, I didn't see that. WTF, that's insane. Exodore 2000. He left Halicarnassus in 460 for being then 20 years of age, and probably directed his steps first to Egypt, visiting Memphis, Heliopolis, and Thebes. He seems to have specially turned his attention to the overflow of the banks of the Nile, and he gives an account of the different opinions held as to the source of this river, which the Egyptians worship as one of their deities. When the Nile overflows its banks, he says you can see nothing but the towns rising out of the water, and they appear like the islands in the Aegean Sea. He tells of the religious ceremonies among the Egyptians, their sacrifices, their ardor in celebrating the feasts in honor of their goddess Isis, which took place principally at Bisiris, whose ruins may still be seen near Bushehr, and of the veneration paid to both wild and tame animals, which were looked upon almost as sacred, and to whom they even rendered funeral honors at their death. He depicts then the most faithful colors, the Nile crocodile, its form, habits, and the way in which it is caught, and the hippopotamus, the mimo, the phoenix, the ibis, and the serpents that were consecrated to the god Jupiter. Nothing can be more lifelike than his accounts of Egyptian customs and the notices of their habits, their games, and their way of embalming the dead, in which the chemists of that period seem to have excelled. Then we have the history of the country from Menes its first king downwards to Herodotus' time, and he describes the building of the pyramids under Cheops, the labyrinth that was built a little above the Lake Moeris, of which the remains were discovered in AD 1799. Lake Moeris itself, whose origin he ascribes to the hand of man, and the two pyramids which are situated a little above the lake. He seems to have admired many of the Egyptian temples, and especially that of Minerva at Sais, and of Vulcan and Isis at Memphis, and the colossal monolith that was 3 years in course of transportation from Elephantine to Sais, though 2,000 men were employed on the gigantic work. Livvy Dunne. Jesus, he was doing some intense traveling. The part about the pyramids really caught my eye, especially the way he described it. But it's honestly super amazing how he was able to describe the things he saw in such detail. Like, just because he wrote everything down, we can know things about the past that happened a super long time ago before the time of the internet, because people like that didn't have a way to document every little detail of everything. Exodore 2000. Did you catch the animal he mentioned, the phoenix? Livvy Dunne. Yeah, it really caught my attention because, like, I knew it was a mythical bird, but it's kind of strange to think about that it was a known thing and not just some ancient urban legend. Exodore 2000. But he mentioned it with the crocodile and hippo just like it was any other animal. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, he mentioned it as just another animal because that is how it was seen. It wasn't seen as some sort of mythical beast, but instead just part of the animal ecosystem or whatever. It's really wild once you really stop and think about it in that way. Exodore 2000. Yeah, let's go to the zoo. Hey race, a crocodile, a hippo, and hey race, our recent animal, the phoenix. Livvy Dunne. Mayo that it'd be such a random gas zoo. Exodore 2000. Some people even say the idea of Jesus rising from the dead was inspired by the phoenix. Livvy Dunne. Brood what? That's the hottest take I have ever heard. Exodore 2000. Fit Christian themes and popes like Saint Clement 9680 used the phoenix to prove Jesus' resurrection. Monks included phoenixes in the bestiaries of the Middle Ages, making no distinction between God's wondrous creations, real or imaginary. During the Renaissance, the phoenix was a popular emblem of royals like Elizabeth I and martyrs like Joan of Arc. This is the greatest period for the phoenix, according to Nick. Why not? With a word like Renaissance a time. Livvy Dunne. Holy crack, imagine the phoenix being as normal as like the hippo or crocodile all, and to think that it was used to explain Jesus' resurrection, like, wow. Exodore 2000. Yeah, is that crazy or what? Livvy Dunne. It's absolutely crazy. Exodore 2000. In Jewish tradition, the Talmud tells how the phoenix was the only animal allowed to stay in the Garden of Eden because it refused to eat the forbidden apple. God granted the bird immortality for its obedience. Livvy Dunne. Whoa, that's super interesting, and I wonder why they chose this bird specifically for the Garden of Eden and immortality. Exodore 2000. Legendary birds around the world are often linked to the phoenix, including what it calls phoenix counterparts, such as the Persian sirmorg, Chinese fedhuan, and Russian firebird Tsar Titsa. These birds arose from their own local. Livvy Dunne. That is absolutely fascinating that many different cultures have similar beliefs about birds with very similar characteristics. It really makes you think about how everything is connected. Exodore 2000. Makes me wonder if we really are talking about an animal that really became extinct. Livvy Dunne. OMG, yeah, because what if it used to be real and it just went extinct, so we don't actually know what it looked like or how it was? What if it really was the powerful bird, and that's why it was such an important part of history and lore? Exodore 2000. Yes, that's what I am saying, and it could have led to the creation of Jesus himself. Livvy Dunne. What if the phoenix became the main inspiration for Jesus' resurrection because that is how people back then thought about coming back to life? Like, what if there was a true animal that could come back from the dead ones and the people saw this and used it to create the Jesus resurrection story? Obviously, it was made into more of a divine thing instead of a bird, but I wonder if that's because they made him divine before he actually came back and because of how they were able to return. Exodore 2000. Also could explain how it went from being a real animal to a legend as well. Livvy Dunne. Yeah, that's another good point too. What is something was originally real, and so people believed it so much and talked about it that it became a legend, or like people started to believe it was actually some divine creature instead of this animal because it was so miraculous that they couldn't understand it, and then it later evolved into a story of Jesus' resurrection because it was still seen as a miraculous occurrence or something of that nature. Exodore 2000. Yet that's what I am saying, it's just so cool. Livvy Dunne. It's literally blowing my mind, like Jesus' resurrection could have just been inspired because of a bird. That's crazy to me, but wow. And I want to believe that the bird actually existed because the idea of it coming from something real and the story developing from there is so interesting, because what if there was a time when this bird was just a common animal and now it's seen as legendary? Exodore 2000. Yeah, these people of that time had such little regard for animals. Look at what they did to that gorilla. Livvy Dunne. They are. Even just the way we think about animals in general has changed over time. We have animal cruelty laws that didn't exist back then. We try not to use animals for testing anymore. It's just crazy to see how we think of animals in today's world versus back then in such old times. Exodore 2000. For all we know, the ethnics died out because they needed the lighter. Livvy Dunne. Jesus Christ. What would the phoenix even have eaten? Because it wouldn't be meat, right? Because it burned itself every time it died, but it came back. WTF did this thing eat, and how did it not become extinct earlier? Exodore 2000. No idea, because it was never studied by modern science. Livvy Dunne. It just seems like all around a super bizarre concept, but it's so cool to know that people back in ancient times had such a unique way of thinking. These things they came up with that we thought were just stories actually have historical roots, and that's just awesome because we have it written and documented. Exodore 2000. Yeah, I am sure they would think similar of things like the electric eel or platypus. Livvy Dunne. I feel like I could see people thousands of years from now calling those divine creatures to LMFAO. Exodore 2000. They say the reason people love the phoenix is it's a symbol of hope. Livvy Dunne. I mean, I can easily see why they chose that. Because it means that if the bird can rise from the ashes, then so can people. Especially because of how the bird did it, from fire. So I can totally see how people back then would have believed that it was just this miracle that was supposed to inspire hope and showed the ability to overcome adversity. Exodore 2000. According to Herodotus, the Ethiopians were at that time to be found above Elephantina, but commentators are induced to doubt if this learned explorer ever really visited Ethiopia, and if he did not, he may easily have learned from the Egyptians the details that he gives of its capital Merope, of the worship of Jupiter and Bacchus, and the longevity of the natives. There can be no doubt, however, that he set sail for Tyre in Phoenicia, and that he was much struck with the beauty of the two magnificent temples of Hercules. He next visited Tarsus and took advantage of the information gathered on the spot to write a short history of Phoenicia, Syria, and Palestine. Livvy Dunne. Think he really got around. I feel like it would be crazy to see the sites he visited. Like just imagining the places he saw and how they looked back then is amazing. I feel like people back in that period would have seen it as a miracle that there was such a variety of different people groups and countries and cultures. I mean, it still is super cool to think about now, but I can't imagine how overwhelming it would have been to see it back then. Exodore 2000. Yeah, we're on our second adventure here, and we already have mention of Palestine. Livvy Dunne. That's wild. He really did travel all over the place. But I do have a question. When did he write the history? Like, was he writing everything as he experienced it, or did he write it after he was done traveling? Exodore 2000. He wrote them between 426 and 415 BC. Livvy Dunne. Damn, he really wrote a lot. Is that something that he did in his off time on the journey, or did he just like always write? Exodore 2000. I think when he got back from his travels, he wanted to record what had happened so it didn't just disappear. Livvy Dunne. I figured that, but the fact that he remembered everything so well is kind of wild. I feel like it would be hard to remember things perfectly and put it in detail. I think that's really impressive. Exodore 2000. He is considered the first historian. Livvy Dunne. Wow. I never actually even knew that. Honestly, that's pretty cool. Exodore 2000. We next find that he went southward to Arabia, and he calls it the Ethiopia of Asia, for he thought the southern parts of Arabia were the limits of human habitation. He tells us of the remarkable way in which the Arabs kept any vow that they might have made, that their two deities were Uranus and Bacchus, and of the abundant growth of myrcenium and other spices, and he gives a very interesting account of their culture and preparation. Livvy Dunne. Wow. I'm so curious to know what the Arabia was actually like back then. Like, did it still have the same culture and beliefs as what we know to be present-day Arabia? Or have the beliefs and cultures of the Arabia area changed drastically over the years and that lead them to have a different history? Exodore 2000. We cannot be quite sure which country he next visited, as he calls it both Assyria and Babylonia, but he gives a most minute account of the splendid city of Babylon, which was the home of the monarchs of that country after the destruction of Nineveh, and whose ruins are now only in scattered heaps on either side of the Euphrates, which flowed a broad deep rapid river, dividing the city into two parts. On one side of the river the fortified palace of the king stood, and on the other the temple of Jupiter Belus, which may have been built on the site of the Tower of Babel. Herodotus next speaks of the two queens Semiramis and Nitocris, telling us of all the means taken by the latter to increase the prosperity and safety of her capital, and passing on to speak of the natural products of the country, the wheat, barley, millet, sesame, the vine, fig tree, and palm tree. He winds up with a description of the costume of the Babylonians and their customs, especially that of celebrating their marriages by the public crier. Livvy Dunne. This is so cool to imagine. Literally all of this was happening where cities exist today. Like the fact that Babylon existed and was such a large thriving city in that area is super intriguing. I always love learning about Babylon because it's so prevalent in the Bible, yet it's not a place many people actually know about in the sense that they can say they've been there, because most of it probably doesn't exist at all anymore. But even that is cool, and I love the stories and legends surrounding Babylonia and its origin and fall.